Good evening and welcome to the Writer's Block. I'm your host, John Ronan, and as you know now, because we're in our 23rd year, I interview poets and other kinds of writers about their craft, what they're doing, what they've done in the past, what they might be planning. We also have other brands of artists on. We've had sculptors and painters, actors, musicians. We cast a pretty wide net. So if you have an idea for someone, poet or writer or otherwise, who might be right for the Writer's Block, watch for our address at the end of the show. I also want to mention that this is only one of the many programs generated by Cape Ann TV for, by, and about Cape Ann residents. It's a real community service provided by cable television access. Don't go to Dish. You won't be able to get our programs. I'm very happy to say tonight we do have a poet. Her name is Jean Hodgin, and she's just brought out a wonderful book of haikus, and we're going to be talking about what those are just a minute from now. Jean was raised in Oxford, Ohio, and she went to school in Ohio at the University of Miami. Some of you know that there's a Miami University in Ohio as well as in Florida. She went after that to Columbia University in New York, where she took her master's degree in English literature and children's literature. And she was, with me, a colleague for many years as a professor at North Shore Community College. She is a former resident of the Magnolia section of Gloucester, now lives in Beverly. Welcome to the show, Jean.
Thank you so much, John.
Thanks for
Very
coming.
nice to be here and to help celebrate your 23rd year, which
Thank
is
you very
really
much.
exciting.
It's been a long time. And Cape Ann is justifiably proud of the show, Cape Ann TV and all our other programs.
That's great.
You should be proud of this book, Dust Jacket Haiku, which I'm going to hold up so that we can get a good shot of the cover, because it contains one of Jean's wonderful accompanying photographs that are throughout the book, along with the poetry. And this is a photograph. Would you tell us what's this a photograph of?
It's your friend Hamlet contemplating the skull of Yorick, and it's in Stratford-on-Avon. It's a statue in Avon, Stratford-on-Avon.
There are many photographs, beautiful photographs in the book, and they're all yours?
They're all, yes.
I'd like to ask you a real general soft question at first. Why did you get into writing, or English for that matter?
Because I needed to speak in the United States, so I spoke English. I'm being facetious. I'm sorry,
That's
John.
a good motivation.
Yeah,
and your parents would beat you if you broke into Spanish or Greek?
No, they probably would have appreciated it. But anyway, no, I enjoy language and playing with words, as you do, as I know. And poetry to me is a wonderful way to express yourself and to let people read what you say and see what they come up with in the work. So I've liked to write. Just by way of example, you were teasing me on when did you enjoy language and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I remember, I suppose the first poem that I created was back in the last century when both you and I did live. I think it sounds funny to say it that way. The 1900s. Anyway, I was maybe 8 years old and was out in the front lawn and looked at the daffodils. They were wonderful, but in the house we had the old-fashioned kind of telephone that the daffodil looked like. Do you remember, with the mouthpiece sticking out?
And you have to pull the earphone off the off the mechanism.
The really modern. Yeah. But anyway, so I came in. I was all excited, and I said to my parents, I said, "I've got this idea for a poem," and they said, "Okay, go for it." And so I said, "The daffodils are telephones, the bumblebees are buzzers, and when you hear them start to ring, you know that soon it must be spring."
very
So
good.
anyway, the bumblebees
good
with
for
it.
8-year-old.
Never mind. So, but I've advanced a bit from that.
This is a book of haikus.
Yeah.
Tell us what a haiku is.
Well, it's a form of poetry that I'm not good on dates, but it dates back to early Japanese writing originally, and it was intended to be about nature. But as the subtitle on the book says, it's my subtitle, Literature in 17 Syllables. And haiku is a verse form that technically has 5 syllable beats in the first line. Second line has 7 syllables, and the third line has 5 syllables. So you set up your pattern of words based on a syllable count rather than a definite metric pattern, or a rhyming pattern. So,
And you asked me before the show started if I had ever tried haikus, and I have. And I know that it's very deceptively difficult. You think 17 syllables, 3 lines,
yeah,
no problem, but it's
tricky.
tricky, yes.
Yeah, you aren't writing in sentences, and as I say, you don't have a fixed meter to deal with. You just have to count. If you can count to 17, you're all right. But anyway,
Even
no,
if you're not a
it's-
math major, you can do that.
That's why I did it.
Now, I want to talk to you about the process of the poems and the process of bringing out the books and where they are and all that. But I thought it would be best to start with the first haiku in the book. Would you read it for us?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Okay, just to let you know, there are about 20 or so poems in here, and each is identified in the table of contents by the author rather than by the work itself. But in the book, I have done it with the title of the work to be identified, so it makes it easier for a reader. So the first one is The Scarlet Letter.
So now in the table of contents, it's Hawthorne,
Right.
and specifically this haiku is about his novel, Scarlet Letter.
Yeah, thank you for making it clear. Okay, this is about The Scarlet Letter. Hester's principles: take a dim view of gossips, cultivate a pearl.
Would you read it again? Because I'm going to ask you to parse it out in a minute, and I want to make sure our audience can remember the lines when we start talking.
Okay, Hester's principles: take a dim view of gossips, cultivate a pearl.
Wonderful. Now, deconstruct that a little bit for us. and
Deconstruct it? Okay.
Tell us
All right.
what you
It's-
put into it.
It's playing around with sounds. And Hester Prynne is the main character, the winner of the Scarlet Letter, shall we say. And since her name is Hester Prynne, I played it Hester's Principles, which works as the first haiku line. And Mr. Dimsdale was another very active person, shall we say.
Necessary person.
Yeah, and so I said, take a dim view of gossips. All right, so you're playing off the Dimsdale. And then the daughter of Hester was named Pearl, and so I say, cultivate a pearl, with the A being a capital letter in red. Yeah, maybe you can do that.
So the A here, the Scarlet Letter, is clearly visible as part of the text here, and one of the plays on words and letters and syllables that Jean has inserted in this very, very clever poem. Again, it's 5 syllables. Hester's Principles.
Hester's Principles.
Hester's Principles.
Yep.
And then 7, take a dim view of gossips. And then 5 again, cultivate a pearl.
But yet you don't read it that way. You don't chop it up into syllables.
No, but
Yeah, that's why it doesn't have a metric flow or design to it. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I wanted the audience to hear that count. Now, would you tell us something about the photograph that accompanies this haiku?
Oh, it's.
I don't think we'll be able to see that if we
Oh,
hold it
okay.
up.
It's the statue of Hawthorne that is by the Hawthorne Inn in Salem. Just use that as a landmark for it. Just as I used the Gloucester Fisherman in one that was on Kipling in here.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we get to that. Do you want to do that now, next?
I don't care.
Why don't we do that next? That's a good idea. Here is the picture of the man at the wheel, and the poem is titled Kipling Work. Kipling
His
works.
Yeah, well, this one isn't based on just one, but I wanted to play off the Gloucester end of things, having seen his signing in at the inn and all the rest of it. But I was this takes in several of his works. Stories are just so. Captains sail courageously. What if sons were men? So playing off his poem, If, and Captain's Courageous, and the Just So stories.
Yes, good, good.
Okay? And the one
Conglomeration.
on the facing page is Peter Pan, because I did include some, because of my interest in children's literature, some from children's lit, and Peter Pan is, with its haiku, hooked on youthfulness, lost boys tinker with pirates, darlings wend their way. And since Wendy is one of the darlings, it, again, you choose your words. I mean, you
Yes.
could have said, darlings go their way, but it doesn't play on the characters.
There's a nice variety in the words, and whether the syllabification rests on individual words or whether you have 2 or 3 or 4 syllables in one word. It affects the flow a great deal.
It does, yes, you're right.
I should say, for our audience, clarify syllable. It's the smallest pronounceable element
Unit of the speech.
of
yeah.
language.
Yeah.
So you can have principality. That's one line. Maybe your first line.
You've used up a whole line.
That's the whole line.
Yeah.
5 syllables in one word. Or you can say, I see the cat run. All those words, still 5 syllables.
Right.
So there's a tremendous variety there.
And that's what makes it fun, to play with that, because you aren't playing with inflection of the words. And as you say, you can have one whole word being one whole line.
Yeah. It gets complicated.
It's complicated, but it's fun.
Tell me, Gene, when you thought of this book and how long it took you to.
Oh, okay, interesting question,
together.
because I think all of us, audience included, probably at some point in their lives try writing poems of some sort.
Yeah.
For whatever occasion it might be. And actually the impetus for doing the haiku, because I much prefer in my own world writing sonnets or odes or things of that nature. We won't go into the syllable count on those at this point. But anyway.
But you like fixed form.
Yeah, fixed form. But one Christmas holiday out on Cape Cod with when my family were out there, we think of, let's play some sort of interesting game. And somebody piped up and said, let's all write a haiku and read them, which was better than working puzzles and that sort of thing. So we did. And it was fun to see what happened. And that was something that we did several holiday seasons. And I thought, well, this is kind of an interesting verse form. And then some of my other friends were interested in doing it and creating it. And so I decided to, and I've decided to use it with photographs on Christmas cards that I've done, and have a haiku each year along with a different sort of picture.
That game idea is wonderful because
It
it's
was
short
great.
form, so that you have a lot of interaction. It's not like
Yeah.
sit down and write a sestina. You
Oh, yes,
you come
let's.
back in an hour and a half.
No,
So you can
come back
interact
for
there.
breakfast.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yes, that was the fun of it. It's brief, But as I mentioned at the outset, the themes were supposed to be originally about nature, and that was the focus. But as you can see from the playfulness in what I hope is playfulness in there, that it doesn't have to stick to nature. And I think there's a trend now to not have haiku just exclusively about things of nature.
So you can take the form
Use the
rules
form-
and apply them anywhere.
Yes, which is the way with lots of formal forms of poetry. Yeah.
When did you decide, or how did you decide to, do a book?
I guess I was nudged by some friends who said, look, you've done a lot of writing. Why don't you try to create something? Well, with the publishing market as it is now, and particularly for poetry, it's difficult. So I just decided to take it upon myself to ask the people over in Danvers at Finer Image if they'd be willing to put the book together and send it off. And
they said sure.
And they said yes.
And did you have the idea of accompanying photographs from the beginning?
That's where, if and when I try something else with the haiku or otherwise, I'll be more assiduous with choosing, I think, photographs a bit more carefully. But
where can people buy Dust Jacket Haiku?
The bookshop in Beverly Farms, which is close to Gloucester.
Yes,
close enough.
It's right
to
on
Gloucester.
127.
Yeah, right. So they do have copies there, and I'm hoping that it will be at the bookstore at the North Shore Community College also.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Would you pick out a couple others of these? I'd like you to talk about the Shakespeare haiku, and then whatever else you'd like to read.
I hope that's what the audience would enjoy, just hearing some of these.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, you said Shakespeare one?
Well, I thought I wanted to get Shakespearean because everybody's heard of that boy.
Truly. I guess they have. Now I've, of course, lost him in the shuffle. Well, I'll play with another one here on George Bernard Shaw, Pygmalion. You've heard of My Fair Lady, I hope, and that. So I do Cockneys do little, okay, with Liza Doolittle. Linguist Iggins lessons elp, playing off the dropping the H's everywhere. The King's English.
Would you read that again, please?
You didn't understand it? Frightfully sorry, old boy. Okay. Cockneys do little. Linguist Iggins lessons elp. The King's English. And that's another thing. You were talking about the counts and stuff on things. This way you can stretch things out. You can say, the King's English. But it's just in the count on it.
Yes, just one. Yes.
And
would you mention the photograph that accompanies the Shakespeare?
Oh, the Shakespeare
haiku?
Okay, that's the cover, but it's
that's the cover, and then again it's Hamlet with Yorick.
And this is Hamlet, yeah.
Ex Yorick.
Huh?
Ex Yorick.
Yeah, I should have gotten Yorick in here. Conscience conquers all. Elsinor's ghost ran rampart to be a Great Dane. Okay, we say run rampant, but if you say run rampart, then you get at least I got it that way. So, Canterbury Tales.
Okay, Canterbury Tales is Chaucer's long series of stories told on the way to Canterbury, a pilgrimage.
A pilgrimage, and the Canterbury comes from the pace of the horses. The canter was the pace at which they went, and it was a 3-day trip down and back anyway. And the characters told the stories. We should try that maybe for Cape Ann. You should have Cape Ann Tales and go from Manchester by the Sea on up to Gloucester telling stories.
By horseback.
Oh, I don't know. Kayak.
I think that's called,
the coastal route. Okay.
that's called bar hopping these days, I think.
I didn't want to say it. I left that to you. Okay, Canterbury Tales. April Pilgrimage, Tabard Inn to Becket's Shrine, Characters Decant.
And I want to show, if I can hold up, there's one of Jean's photographs here that accompanies the Canterbury Tales is Canterbury
Cathedral.
Cathedral, a magnificent photograph of a magnificent
I don't know if you
structure.
can pan in on that or not.
Now, there are a couple I want to make sure we don't miss. We don't have time to do all of them, but there were a couple I had noted that I didn't want to forget. Potter and Carol,
Potter and Carol.
the two which end the book. I want to make sure we get to those. And if you would,
Do you want me to count them out?
well, no, just if you maybe read them twice,
right.
once fluidly and once more
Okay.
pedagogically, with the
All right.
syllabification built in.
If I don't get tongue twisted. Okay, Tale of Peter Rabbit. Garden invasion, McGregor's carrots toppled, Peter loses shirt. So,
I just
And-
got the, okay.
oh yeah,
Go ahead.
I'll do Alice in Wonderland twice. Alice in Wonderland. Cat and mouse game friends, Alice's curious land, wondrous adventures. Cat and mouse game friends, Alice's curious land, wondrous adventures.
Alex, our cameraman, just gave me the 5-minute signal,
Oh, he did.
and you said you wanted to
I want,
say something about the book
I want to say
just
something.
before we close.
Okay? He said 5 minutes? All right. Then I
I'm
will
going
say-
to have to close.
All right. This is for John, in honor of the 23rd year. It's called Haiku, Highcoup. Architect of words, inspiration comes in verse. Build on writer's blocks. So they're haiku blocks.
Haiku blocks.
So
I
you
didn't
can-
know this was coming.
I know
Jean
you
made me
didn't.
promise to tell her when the show, I got the 5-minute signal, so I didn't know what she was going to say. But this is very nice. These are ivory or
get those in
plastic
store-
blocks with individual words on each side. They're like dice
Yeah.
with individual words on each side. So you roll them to make haiku.
Yeah.
Or is that, what's the plural of haiku? Haikus or haikui?
Haikups. I don't know.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyway, that's in honor of your 23rd
Well,
year.
thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You can share them with the Gloucesterites.
Yes, I will. I'll play this tomorrow. Thanks very much, Chief.
You're welcome.
Where I'm about to get my 3-minute signal, or I did get my 3-minute signal. I want to thank you, Gene Hodgson, for sharing Dust Jacket Haiku with us this evening. It's a really beautiful book, both in terms of the writing and the photographs. And I urge anybody who's interested in them to get down to the Beverly Farms bookstore, a fine little bookstore, by the way. Thank you very much, Gene, again, and
welcome,
thank you
Jim.
for the haiku cubes as a gift for the 23rd anniversary of the Writer's Block. I appreciate that. I want to thank everybody out there in cablecast land as well. If you've learned something about haiku and photography and sensitivity to words from Gene Hodgson tonight, then the Writer's Block has done its job. Thanks for being with us, and I hope to see you again next week on the Writer's Block.